On everyone. Could Brooklyn really keep KD and Kyrie? There was a report the other day that the Brooklyn Nets are possibly prepared to keep them both into the next season and that they haven't gotten any offers that they feel comfortable enough trading these two for, and thus they're willing to keep them going into next season. Now, when it comes to these two, Kevin Durant makes a ton of sense, but Kyrie Irving doesn't. Now, Kyrie has made it very clear he wants to go to the Lakers. He's made it very clear he wants to get out. I believe the relationship is torn and lost between Kyrie and the Brooklyn Nets organization. And the difference between KD and Kyrie is the kind of guy that will implode your team. Like, you got young guys, you got guys that are trying to, fit in to the team. You're trying to build this culture, you're trying to build this chemistry and this camaraderie. And then you got a guy like Kyrie who doesn't show up to practice, comes in late, does what he wants, doesn't respect the coach, is likely going to sit out most of the season because he wants to go to the Lakers. So why would he risk getting injured? Why would he risk anything? And why would he want to play for the team that doesn't want him? I mean, Brooklyn has made it very clear. The owner, Sy, has even talked about how he doesn't want Kyrie Irving. And he even said that he'd rather have a team that is 40 wins every year that he at least is proud of and respects than the team he has now. Like, I just don't see a scenario where Brooklyn keeps Kyrie Irving. I just don't think that they're going to want to go into the season with Kyrie on the roster and run the risk of him just throwing a tantrum and a fit and just, like I said, imploding your team. The Nets have a really nice team, even without Kyrie Irving. They got TJ Warren, who, if he can be healthy, can be a lot of what Kyrie was. That scorer, that guy that can get you 20 and night in, night out. He's also bigger. He's 6'8", so he has size, he has length. He can play multiple positions, things like that. They still have, Patty Mills and Seth Curry and Joe Harris and, all of these pieces around them, Nick Claxton. So they do have a really solid team put in place, even if they don't have Kyrie Irving, and you still have Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant, obviously, the market for him is getting smaller and smaller by the second. There's only really like 3 teams now that can meet the asking price for Kevin Durant now that the Phoenix Suns are pretty much out of it. They're not entirely out of it, but I mean, now that they have Ayton, they can't trade Ayton until January. And then even then, he has veto power in any trade for the rest of the season. So you can't really trade him. If he doesn't want to go to Brooklyn, and let's say he wants to go to Indiana, then that's the only place you could trade him now. And maybe you could trade him and then try to go get KD at the trade deadline, something like that. Trade him and then Miles Turner goes to the Nets. But at that point, why would anybody want to make the trade, right? If you're Brooklyn, you're probably in the playoffs. You're probably competitive, which Brooklyn cannot tank, right? So with KD and the rest of the guys, without Kyrie, you're still a playoff team. And let's say they're grooving. Like, let's say they get rid of Kyrie, right? And they're cruising, everything's good, the culture's good, they're winning. Like, they're like, the 3 or 4 seed in the East. Like, why would you trade Kevin Durant in the middle of that? You might as well just keep him and then explore the trade talks at the offseason again. And, maybe you get this like Godfather offer where it just doesn't make sense not to trade him because you might not get a better package when the offseason comes. But even then, like, it doesn't make any sense. And Phoenix, I don't know. I'm scared for them. I really think that they might implode, but we'll see. That'll be a discussion for another video. But Kevin Durant, outside of like the Pelicans, the Warriors, like maybe you could say Memphis, but I don't think Memphis would want to blow up what they have to go get Kevin Durant. Like, most of the teams that do have the pieces to go get Kevin Durant probably either doesn't want to be there or they just wouldn't want to blow up what they'd have to blow up to go get Kevin Durant. I mean, Toronto could do it, but I don't think Toronto wants to give up Scotty Barnes. They're young, up and comer. Like, he may be a star in this league, that kind of thing. I don't think that they want to, because I think if they would, then that deal would probably be in place, especially with the Suns out of the way. So I just think that keeping Kevin Durant is the most likely scenario. I don't think the Nets really have many other choices besides that, unless the Warriors decide, all right, we'll put a package together and go get Kevin Durant. Like, that's the only team that can put a real package that makes sense for the Nets and not blow up their entire team. And, and Kevin Durant just is basically playing with a bunch of role guys, right? That is the only place that fits Kevin Durant. And then as far as Kyrie Irving goes, again, I just don't see them keeping him the entire season. I just think it would be an absolute disaster. The Nets don't want him. The owner doesn't want him. All the talks, everybody that is anybody have all reported that, the deal is basically in place. Like, they know what they said. And even the report today that came up by Brian Windhorst, it didn't say that they were going to keep Kevin Durant and Kyrie. It just said that they were likely going to keep Kevin Durant. It had nothing to do with Kyrie. Kyrie's been taken off of all their promotional stuff. He's been taken off of their building. His jerseys are at half price now, all this stuff. Like, all the writing is on the walls that Kyrie Irving is gone, that Kyrie Irving is going elsewhere. Like, I just don't see the Nets wanting to roll the dice. Now, is it possible? Of course. Maybe Kyrie, maybe like the asking price is too much and it just becomes this mess. And maybe Kevin Durant could say, hey, look, I'm stuck here for another year. Would you just ride it out with me, buddy? Like, let's just do this one last year. We'll ride it out together, and then you can just go sign with the Lakers next season. Maybe we win a championship. Worst case scenario, it's just a year. You get your $36 million regardless, and then just go sign a max with the Lakers next season, right? And that could be a possibility. But I just don't think anybody wants that. I don't think Kyrie wants that. I don't think the organization wants that. I don't know if KD even wants that at this point. Right? You don't want to force somebody to be somewhere where they don't want to be and where the organization doesn't want him. I don't think it was a coincidence that as soon as Kyrie opted in, Kevin Durant requested a trade. Like, immediately. I'm confident that Kyrie and Kevin Durant sat down or talked over the phone or whatever and had a conversation and said, I don't want to be here. I want to go to the Lakers. And Kevin Durant said, okay, I'm going to request a trade. And he said, I'm going to opt in and then force them to trade me. And that's probably what happened. I mean, that's exactly what happened, right? Kyrie opted in. You hear the trade request. You hear that he wants to go to the Lakers. He tells everybody, his entire camp is telling everybody he's going to the Lakers. And then Kevin Durant requests a trade, and he has his preferred destinations. And the Nets are just trying to work this whole thing out. I just think they want this nightmare over. I think Brooklyn wants to just move on. And the quickest way to move on is you get rid of Kyrie Irving, because then you just have Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant isn't that guy that's going to just sit out all year and just cause, drama and mayhem. He just wants to hoop. He's the guy that will show up, he'll play, all that stuff. The big question is he going to be a guy that is just like half-assing it out there? Is he going to be a guy that's just kind of trotting along throughout the season and just kind of on autopilot rather than like actually engaged, actually trying to win, actually trying to lead his team to a championship? Possibly. You'd still have so look, like Ben Simmons, as many questions as there are with him, if he can become Philly Ben Simmons, Embiid and Simmons, year in and year out, were contenders in most people's eyes. Like, that Philly team was a contender. Many people believe that Philly could win a championship with Embiid and Ben Simmons. What is Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons? That's got to be a contender. If you're talking Philly Ben Simmons, a guy that can get you 15 points, get you 10 assists, 10 rebounds, lock down the best guy on the other team, all of that stuff. If that can happen, this team, Brooklyn is in a good place, even without Kyrie Irving. And Brooklyn can be patient with Kevin Durant. They got 4 years of Kevin Durant. So they don't have to rush it. They don't need to do anything drastic. They don't need to do anything crazy. But I think you got to get rid of Kyrie Irving. I do. I think you have, at this point, I don't think you have a choice, because you can't run the risk of what Kyrie's going to do to your team. The Kyrie factor is scary. If he was a guy more like Kevin Durant, where it's like, he wants to be traded. We want to trade him, but we're not getting what we want. There's not a lot of suitors out there. Let's just have him finish out his contract for the year, and then they play. Maybe we win a championship, and then he can just leave. And we lose him for nothing, but who cares? He's not a locker room headache. He's not going to cause drama. He's not going to do anything that's just that's against the team. He's going to be a professional. He's going to go out there and play. Like, no, he wasn't a professional when he wanted to be in Brooklyn. Like, Brooklyn was the place he wanted to go to. Like, he couldn't be a professional then. You think he's going to be a professional now? Now that he doesn't want to be in Brooklyn and he knows that Brooklyn doesn't want him? Of course not. he's going to do whatever he can to force his way to the Lakers. He's out there telling people, fans at Sparks games, I'm coming real soon. You see him. I mean, he had a whole interview where he's in a Lakers shirt. Like all this. I mean, it's just the writing's on the wall. He wants to be a Laker. The Lakers want him. The Nets want to get rid of him. I think Kyrie happens. It's a matter of when, not if. I think he happens sooner or later. Kevin Durant, though, makes all the sense in the world to just hold on to, be patient. You have a solid team. I don't necessarily think they're a contender, but who knows? I mean, like I said, you get a Philly Ben Simmons, TJ Warren, if he could be, the 20-point-a-game TJ Warren that we've seen. And then, you have Patty Mills, you have Seth. Let's say you get rid of Joe Harris in the deal. Okay, fine. But you still have enough guys and enough pieces. You're going to be great offensively. Defense is going to be a little bit of an issue. But defense was a bit of an issue with Kyrie and not. Your defense was always an issue regardless. So I think Brooklyn still has a really nice team that, I wouldn't be surprised if they're, in the top of the seeding. And they're, and people are like, man, is this team like legit? Like, and you get rid of the headache that is Kyrie. You get rid of, worst case scenario, let's say Kyrie even does buy in. Kyrie's going to miss 20-plus games a season. He's going to not show up for practice. He's going to do things that you don't want from, the face of your franchise, a face of your team, a guy that is representing everybody. You're going to have all that drama. It's going to be just looked at under a microscope. Everything is going to be looked at under a microscope. That is terrible for the team. If you just move on from Kyrie, then you know what your team is. You can build that team, and you get rid of all of the hoopla. It's just, let's just hoop this year. Kevin, I know you want to leave. We want to trade you, but we're not just going to trade you for nothing. Like, we need to get something for you. So ride it out this year, and we'll explore this at the trade deadline, and we'll explore it during the offseason. But you got a great team. Like, you got Ben Simmons. He's coming back. You got TJ Warren. We got pieces for you to really help you this year, so that way you could still compete while we get rid of Kyrie. I just think that that's probably the best approach. I think that that's ultimately what's going to happen. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you think they keep Kevin Durant? Do you think they keep Kyrie Irving? Do you think they keep both? Or do you think that, no, ultimately what will happen is both will end up getting traded? How do you feel about this situation? Do you think this whole circus is just an absolute mess? Do you love it? Do you hate it? However you feel about it, I'd love to hear it down in the comment section below. I think the likelihood of KD staying is extremely high now. I don't think there's very many options left out there. But Kyrie, I really believe Kyrie's still getting traded. And maybe that's just my optimism. Maybe that's just, me thinking, looking into things too much. Whatever you think it is, I just think the writing's on the wall. And I just think Brooklyn is not going to want the Kyrie headache next season and to have just every little thing just under a microscope. Every time that there's like any type of nothing burger, they're gonna take that and they're gonna run with it. It's just all of that stuff can plague a locker room. All of that stuff can, demoralize a team. Like, so you don't want that especially if you're trying to compete. If the Nets were a team too, if the Nets were a team that could tank, this would probably be a completely different scenario. Problem is the Nets can't tank. The Nets have to remain competitive. So they need a very unique package, or they have to keep Kevin Durant. So I just think they keep Kevin Durant. But anyway, again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down on. One last little shameless plug is I did start As It Stands Lakers. It is a channel just like this, dedicated to only the Lakers, because the Lakers are my favorite team. And on this channel, As It Stands, I talk about all teams, all sports, stuff like that. We have football season coming up, so I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And I just wanted to make a dedicated channel to the Lakers to give the ins and outs. Now, all the big stuff, all the big news and stuff, I will still post here on this channel. But if you want all the ins and outs and just rumors and theories and just discussions just strictly on the Lakers, link down in the description or in the comment section. Go check out the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot, lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.